Where did the Free Melon Society even come from? Like, what's the name for?
Oh, cool.
All right, everybody. I got Eli with the Free Melon Society with me today. I wanted to ask him some of the questions you asked for me to ask him, and then I had some questions on my own. Who knows where this will go? I don't like to plan these things. I like to be, fluid.
Well, first of all, thanks a lot for having me back on your channel.
Oh, I guess
Always very appreciative.
Yeah, before we get started, I'm gonna link all Eli's stuff down below. Go, join or whatever it is, likes, all the subscriptions, joining. Nothing's ever the same, right?
Yeah. All that social media garbage, whatever.
Whatever they call it for that one, So one of the first questions I wanted to ask you was, and this is a question people actually ask me of you, like I know. But the question I get most is how do you even stay fruitarian? Like, how do you do something like that? Some people say, like I can do it all day, and then dinner comes and I want my starch or whatever.
Yeah. I was just responding to someone with the exact same question yesterday. I can do it throughout the day. Then as soon as I settle down for the evening, then all of a sudden I can't do it, right? I got to have my sedative meals. I have to have processed stuff or whatever, right? How do I see? This is a tough question because I have to think about it, because for me, it's not something I think about. There's no challenge in staying raw. Okay. There's no challenge in staying raw.
Once you get there.
Once you get there. And I'll always talk about the momentum principle and how the more you do something, the easier and easier and easier and easier it gets, until honestly, you really don't have to think about it too much. I don't want to mislead people in thinking that I am no longer subject to regular human temptations and regular human biochemistry. I am. If I go out and I grab like a vegetarian or vegetarian, a vegan burrito, okay, plant-based burrito, and I do that and I eat that for dinner for the next 2 days, I'm telling you right now, day 3, like, I'm not above how the biochemistry works. There will be part of me that's like, oh, I could really go for that burrito again. Like, I'm craving this. Like, yeah, you can go back to your diet next week.
Yeah, right? Next year.
Yeah. It'll happen. I'll feel that. I can tell you, when I did more of these experiments in going back and eating conventional food, and not just like healthy cooked plant-based stuff, not like steamed broccoli and whatever, some potatoes or something. No, I would actually test like restaurant food, right? And yeah, I can tell you, it made me realize how unbelievably easy it is to fall back on that kind of stuff. It's so easy. And I wanted to know in my own experience, okay, I'm coming at this place where my body's been a bit more cleaned out than it used to be now, living on primarily fruit and every once in a while maybe a salad or something. But I wanted to know, hey, what is it like when I go back and I have that pizza, that burrito, that whatever? And man, yeah, it's so stimulating. The stuff is so stimulating because that's how it's been designed.
Yeah.
That the pleasure center, the reward center, your dopamine, your serotonin, all these feel good hormones, it's this cascade of feel good hormones that completely sedate you, that make you solid in your physical body. It's how do I say it? It's just very, very, very difficult to get out of that once you start going down the hole. And so that being said, when I talk about the momentum principle and simply abstaining from those foods, it might take you that 2-3 weeks, maybe even more, to actually exert discipline in order to get over that. But if you can get through that and like actually like, okay, fine, use some then all of a sudden your biochemistry starts responding. Now your microbiota starts to change and shift and adapt. Stop calling for those things as the poisons and the waste products move out. So it's just different. And now at this point, I've been doing it for so long that it's not something I think about. Like I don't have an actual concrete answer for how do I do it.
Mhm.
It's just that I've been immersed in the literature for a long time. I've put it into practice for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So now it's there is no how. That's just how it is, right? I just don't consider most other things as food. If I were to, this is a long answer, by the way. I'm sorry.
I mean, this is your floor, man.
But well, thank you. Yeah, if I were to deviate though, the most likely thing that I would take a cheat day with, or a cheat meal. I don't even feel right about calling it a cheat meal, because if we're in plant-based world, I don't want to say cheating, because then it gives the wrong impression. It's like people out there are going to think, oh, if I have some steamed broccoli and some lentils, I'm cheating. Like, I don't think about it like that. It just depends on what we all individually want and what we're ready for, okay, in our lives. But if I were to deviate from what I currently more habitually do, then I would tell you that sweet potato, steamed broccoli, steamed Brussels sprouts would probably be where I would go to in order to get that that comfortable departure from what I normally do.
Yeah.
So am I tempted to do that throughout my days, throughout my weeks? No. But every once in a while, just like any other human, we're subjected to so many opinions, videos, ads, all this kind of stuff, right? You might see something that perks your interest, like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, man, I've never tried that before. I wonder what that would be like. And so, yeah, you can get curious and want to experiment. But at this point, because I've put that momentum principle into practice for so long, it wouldn't take very much at all to just have that experience, whatever it is. Let's just say I find a recipe for some, mushroom burger. Let's just say, right?
Yeah.
So I do it, have fun with it, experience it, and okay, great. So, but now I really want to get back to my normal way of eating, because it impairs how I feel, and how I feel starts to become much more important than the taste stimulation. At least in my mind, that's how it's framed. So yeah, it's I'm human. The point of this, I'm human, just like everybody else. Don't think that I've got some next level type of or degree of discipline that people don't. No, I'm just like everyone else. It's just that I've put into practice what I teach on my channel for long enough that it has constitutionally changed everything. So and that could completely turn around if for the next 3 months I just did the opposite of what I'm doing now. All of a sudden, I'm going down a path that's going to be a lot more difficult to change, right?
Start going to Taco Bell.
Yeah, exactly. If I start eating Taco Bell for the next year, I'll be a different human being by the end of the year. A completely different human being. So, it's. But I don't do any particular mental practice. Like, I'm not upside down in the lotus position every morning saying I will avoid all temptation. No, I'm not doing any of that nonsense. Right? So
there are people in this world that probably would. I mean, you just never know.
And I'll tell you, if you have to go upside down in the lotus position and tell yourself that I must avoid all temptations, you probably need more work on conquering yourself, right? Any temptations.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be necessary.
Or have a potato. I mean, something.
Actually, I've got I say sweet potatoes because I've got a whole bunch here in the house. I'm going to be heading to my buddy's house, some high school friends, and they're having a little potluck.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do some cooking for them, and just introduce some healthy cooking and food prep.
Yeah.
Wherever you can, right? It's always fun to cook for
Are you going to get kicked out?
No. No, they're good. They know me. Yeah, they know how it is. So I just bring whatever food that I want for myself, and then I'll make some stuff for them, and everyone's happy.
Now you hang around with Jillian fairly often, right? Does it ever kind of make you want to eat whatever she's eating? Because I know she's got some kind of restaurant, raw vegan restaurant there that I think you've actually been to.
Yes.
Do you ever think of like maybe I'll have this once in a while? Because there has been some fruitarians who have died because of various deficiencies in some kind of manner. Have you ever does that ever kind of cross the mind?
Um. Okay. So okay. So
I know
in
it's two
seeing the
different
kind of
questions.
stuff
Every time I have you on here, I ask you this like ridiculous question. So maybe we'll split this up. So there has been some fruitarians who have passed away because of deficiencies. Does it ever cross your mind?
okay. So um yes, there have been some fruitarians that have passed away, and I think what we'd have to tease out though is whether that was in fact a deficiency in some nutrient, or whether it was attributed to something else. Because as we know, there are so many factors and influences that go into preserving longevity, right? There's a lot there. So maybe it was a particular stress in some type of stress, whether it's emotional, whether it's environmental, whether it's chemical, whether it's a pollutant, whatever it is, that could be influencing the biochemistry in such a way that maybe a particular nutrient was not being absorbed as much, but not necessarily because it was missing from the diet, but more so its ability to be absorbed was being influenced by some other factor, right?
Yeah.
So that type of that type of particular focus, I would suggest, is usually never done, right? Someone passes away, and then we just throw a whole bunch of assumptions into the mix, and then that's it, right? So we don't really actually. It's a hard area to tease out exactly what happened. Sometimes you can, yeah, obviously, sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but okay, do I worry about that? What I mostly worry about, and I use the term worry lightly, but what I'm focused on is, okay, how how are you feeling in comparison to other days that you can use as a general reference, right? What is it that you do in your daily practice that uh, that sparks energy and vitality and wellness at that deep level, and just and notice those and just do those things, right? And that's really what I focus on. Um, no, I'm not. No, to answer your question, no, I'm not worried about
Yeah.
deficiencies, primarily because my caloric needs are always satisfied. So I'm not going hungry.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, so long as you are calorically satisfied, you're getting in enough bulk food in the form, mind you, of whole foods only. This does not apply to processed food. All right. So if everything that's coming into the diet, coming into the body from the diet, is actual whole food, then in that case, if you're getting enough for your body to run, if you're getting enough for your particular body type or my particular body type, then chances are you nutritionally you're okay, you're fine, right? It's when we start getting into malnutrition that becomes a bit of a worry. Or if we're eating so limited, one or two particular items to the exclusion of all things for a very, very, very long period of time. That usually, I would say, doesn't work as well. You wouldn't want to eat just kiwi for 4 years, right?
No, not even a day.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you do want to have some variety in there. Um, does it have to be the immense vast sea of variety that we're told? That I wouldn't be so sure of. I don't think it needs to be as variegated as we're told. However, yeah, one thing only can be quite cleansing because it gives your body this very interesting break from complexity.
Yeah.
But yeah, you wouldn't want to do that indefinitely. So yeah. Anyway, there's a bunch of things to tease out when we're talking about when someone passes away in the absence of like whatever, like if it's not a heart attack or like a stroke or whatnot. Um, really have to ask a bunch of questions before you can come to like the determining factor, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it depends. But no, I don't carry that worry with me in my life because I've seen the immense difference in how I feel, how I look, how I operate, how my cardiovascular system, how it feels and operates, and the difference between that and how it used to be. And so if a particular lifestyle or modality has caused dramatic improvements, then for me it's hard to escape the idea that if that's what improves a person, then that's probably what's going to sustain them as well. That's probably what's going to be in their best interest for maintenance as well as recovery.
Yeah.
Like my recovery program is the exact same for my maintenance program. It's the same. It's the same foods. It's the same rest principle. It's the same all of it, right? Like what is good for the healthy person is good for the sick person. There's no, that's just how it is. Right? You can't poison a sick person, right, and expect that poison to be good for someone who's healthy. It's just poison's poison.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Poison's poison regardless of what it is. So if something is healing, then it should be just as good for a person that's sick as it is for a person in perfect, vibrant health. Right? And so yeah. So I just kind of look at it in that light, and as long as I don't notice anything, like if I don't notice any kind of symptomology, I know I'm going to get slammed for that because yeah, there could be stuff
You
happening
can
under
get
the
slammed for
surface where
anything on
yes,
the internet. It
yes,
really doesn't matter what you say.
yeah, I know, I understand the implications of what I'm saying. So for people that are going to say that, trust me, I hear you. I'm not discounting that. I
Yeah.
know that yes, things can happen under the surface that are undetectable that you don't know about that can be problems in the future. I understand. But I'm speaking very generally. Whereas if you are definitely doing what does not objectively cause harm, right? Then your body will take care of itself, right? The problem arises when we're doing things to ourselves that we don't realize are harmful. And so, how to make that distinction between what is actually harmful and what's not, that's when we have to go back to nature. That's when we have to get rid of all the complexity and be able to assess in honesty, okay, how escaping from all the contrivances that we've placed on diet and eating and food culture, what does the physiology determine, right? What does the biochemistry determine? What are the physiological instincts? And you stick with that, right? And it turns out that you're led to usually what are the best choices.
Mm.
And so but it can be hard. It can be hard to be that brutally honest about the lifestyle and the diet. And so when we ignore that, then we're more likely to make errors in our eating. Anyway, I'm being a bit long-winded about this,
Yeah.
but yeah, sometimes just like to add as much context as possible.
Yeah. So like I said, you go to these raw vegan
Oh
cafes,
yeah,
whatever they are with Jillian.
yeah.
Do you ever feel like partaking? Or do you just not
So
even notice it?
Yeah, the one time I did was at her birthday. So we made a video, and or she made a video, and it was fun. So I went there, had a bunch of the food. It's a place called in Toronto. If you're in the Toronto area, it's called Raw Aura,
Okay.
and it's a great little spot. It's a great little spot. It's one of the only spots that I know of where you can get that type of quality raw food,
Yeah.
and exclusively raw food. There aren't, as far as I know. I mean, I don't know all the restaurants in my city because I don't eat at restaurants, right? But anyway, so I've only eaten there. I've eaten there very few times. Once was at Jillian's at her birthday, and I ate it. I ate there, I think, like once or two other times in my life.
Yeah.
In my life.
Yeah.
Other than that, no, it's it's not. Like I can go there and be amongst people. Like the first time I ate with Jillian at Raw Aura, I didn't eat. I brought my own stuff, and they had their food, and
Yeah.
I was very very comfortable. I had persimmons. I remember.
Yeah, no, I remember
It
the
was just a
percent.
bunch of
They look pretty good.
yeah, yeah. So that was the first time. But yeah, no, it doesn't bother me at all. It's just if if I'm curious and I want to make a departure, I do it very consciously and willingly, but it doesn't hook me after, because yeah, it's the feeling that becomes so stark and so noticeable
Yeah.
after you eat that type of stuff, that you just, well, sorry, not you, I personally just cannot wait to get back to the feeling of lightness, right? Just very very
Yeah.
light, easy, easy being that I operate at, and I like that feeling a lot. And so the truth is, I can't feel that way if I make all of these departures from how I currently live. So that that for me is the motivator, is to always get back to that feeling of just easy wellness, right?
Mm.
And if I do other things, other compromises, then I just don't feel like that. And so as soon as I dip into that feeling, that less than optimal bit of vitality, then immediately I'm like, I want to go back. I want to go back,
Yeah.
and that's what I do. So no, it's not challenging to avoid that. It's not a challenge at all. Uh, but it is raw food. It is acceptable, and so if the occasion comes, or for whatever reason I really want to partake with everybody, I don't have a problem with it. I'm definitely not gonna guilt myself out of it. I'm not gonna like, be all worried and stressed and depressed.
Yeah.
Why? Because I had some raw food with friends. No, come
Yeah.
on, you can't live like that. We have to be we have to be realistic here. Right? No sense in being so dogmatic that you're just not able to live.
Yeah.
And as restrictive as my lifestyle and diet is, I don't see it like that. I see it as very very generous and open, but it's just, yeah, my parameters are a little different than the average person. But it's a good question though. It's a good question because their food is super 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 tasty. It's very very very
Yeah,
very
there used to be a fairly large amount of raw vegan restaurants, but they kind of all just died out.
yeah
So
yeah
it would be
there's
nice for some of that stuff to come back. I just don't think the demand is there. So, you just
yeah
go out of business.
maybe that's it. Yeah, maybe it's just the demand that's not there. I know that there are a couple ve- vegan places in Toronto that you can go to. That's for
There's
sure.
quite a few vegan places even here, but like raw
Oh,
vegan.
really? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Raw vegan.
I was actually surprised at how many vegan places there were when I moved back here, and it was part of me gaining a lot of weight
Mhm.
because it's all fatty as fatty gets, and I think it's just almost worse than eating the not vegan equivalent of it, really, for
Yeah,
most time.
yeah. I would probably have to agree with you. There are definitely items on the conventional raw gourmet menu that would leave you feeling way more encumbered than whatever meal you have when you're just left to your own devices cooking at home.
Yeah.
Right.
I honestly, I'd rather just eat a bowl of rice, quite honestly. And I think you would feel lighter than some of the stuff that you can find at these restaurants. It's crazy.
Right. And it's you know what I think it is? It's because it's raw food, right? They're by necessity having to combine so many different types of spices, flavorings, seasonings, different types of food. They have to combine so much of it together. Dehydrating, right? They have to use dehydrating. They've got to use sometimes oils. Salt is going to be part of the picture. Other seasonings. So they're combining so much other stuff in order to give you the same type of semblance of flavors that you would get in cooked food, right?
Yeah.
In conventional cooked food. But in so doing, it's like the combinations become so challenging for your body to make sense of that I think it can encumber you even more. Not to mention the very, very high fat content of many raw gourmet.
Oh yeah, it's like avocado with nuts on it, and avocado on top of that, and like a little bit of oil, and it's like and then coconut. You know, it's just, it's crazy. Yeah. Speaking of which, you don't eat a lot of fat though, do you?
I don't. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Very little.
I try to stay away from it myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, again, I don't like I don't condemn it or as acceptable food. It's just that no, it's encumbering if you have a lot of it, and you notice that once you start living the the high carbohydrate lifestyle, and you just the pipes become a bit cleaner, and then you introduce a whole meal of high fat content. It's just like you notice it right away. You know exactly what it is. Everything's slowed down to a crawl. Your digestion slows down to a crawl. It's like it's so apparent, so obvious.
It is.
And yeah, you really can't avoid that if you're eating at a raw gourmet place. Like you just got to accept, okay, things are going to slow down for a while this stuff clears out of my system, and then you can go back to how you're eating prior or after. But yeah, like I mean, that meal of the steamed broccoli and rice, if you like rice, or lentils or split peas, some arugula, some cabbage. That meal will probably go through you faster than an intricately prepared raw gourmet meal.
All right, I do have a question here. Why are so many fruitarians switching to the carnivore these days? Carnivore diet. I actually haven't seen a lot of that, but I guess that they have.
Okay. If that is in fact happening, I'm not familiar with that happening.
I'm not either. And the problem you run into with this stuff, I don't mean to cut you off, but the problem you run into with this stuff is Fruitarian was a huge thing on YouTube like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Carnivore is now a huge thing these days on YouTube. And it's like they use a former really big thing on YouTube, and then now they say that they're doing something else just to get a bunch of views. And it seems like a lot of that stuff happens, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, and we also have to remember when we say things like that, like for the person asking the question, okay, raw vegans are a much smaller percentage of the population. Okay. Fruitarians are an even vastly smaller percentage of the population. Now we're talking about fruitarians that have YouTube channels that are popular enough that people watch. Okay, that is such a small fraction of the population. Like you can't even imagine. So when we base our question on why are so many fruitarians going carnivore? Are there really that many going carnivore, or have one or two that you've seen on YouTube who have YouTube channels doing that? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that constitutes many fruitarians going carnivore. Okay, it might just be whoever these people are thinking of. Why are they doing that? I don't know. Why does anybody go back to a very stimulating addiction that they once had? It happens all the time. Why does an ex-smoker pick up smoking again? Why does an alcoholic pick up alcoholism again? Because they've grown up in this. In many cases, people have grown up with meat eating as just a very unconscious a cultural thing, very comfortable habit, very comfortable sitting at the dinner table with family, holidays, meat, chicken, turkey. This It starts to get ingrained in our being that this is what is comfortable. This is home, right? And for some people, going back to that is just very easy.
Yeah.
It's if things don't immediately work out in their favor, switching to a new lifestyle, they don't see the benefits in that first month. They don't, sometimes for some of them, they just don't know how much of a process it is for the body to shift.
Yeah.
Right. They just don't understand that, and they get the wrong idea. They think that the diet is not working with them because whether it's fruitarianism or some other version of raw food. As the body starts to reform itself, it's the house. It's a house being renovated. It's deconstructing everything, and it's putting up the new lamps. It's putting in the new furniture. It's routing out the old rotten foundation, and this takes time, and it feels uncomfortable for a while. And people jump to the wrong conclusion and think, okay, well, because I'm not feeling great, it must mean that it's not working. So I'll go back to something that feels good, that I know feels good.
Yeah.
And what happens? Yeah, they go back. They douse themselves with hormones once again, growth hormones that you find in meat products, and they feel better. Well, of course you feel better.
Yeah.
Right. Of course you feel better. So, yeah. Why do some fruitarians go back to eating carnivore? Because addictive substances are addictive substances. And whether we're talking about ultra processed foods, ultra concentrated proteins in animal tissue, these all have a very similar effect. And some people don't have the right education to be able to discern the difference between deteriorating as a person nutritionally and a part of a process of reforming.
Yeah.
Right. So unless you can make that distinction, you might get the wrong idea and then go back to a carnivore lifestyle. Right.
Good answer.
Now, yeah, and well, thank you, and I know that there are going to be those examples of people who have been doing raw food for many years, right? Like several years.
Yeah.
Who go back, and so it's like, okay, well, what about those people? Right? Maybe it's not the person that's only tried it for a month and they don't have the education. Okay, what about that person that's done it for many years and then all of a sudden they transition? It depends, right? People get married, for example. They live a certain lifestyle and then they get married and another person comes into the life, and now all of a sudden there's this immense bonding pressure, cultural pressure, where that can be, it's a challenge in itself, right?
Yeah.
And that might be part of the picture. There could be many things. So it just depends.
It depends. Yeah, I was looking down because I had another question here. Can you ask him? This saw I was interviewing you. How long he had detox symptoms like dandruff and dry skin for, or any tips to deal with that? I don't know.
Okay.
Did you go through any of that?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I do remember there was one period where I had bad dandruff, and so this is all when I started. So I went fruitarian. I can't remember. I don't keep track of this kind of stuff, but it might have been a year in, or no, more than that, maybe like 2 years in. And there was just like a couple of weeks where I had this bad dandruff. I'm like, I don't know what the hell is this. Like, this is so weird. Like I'd never really had dandruff as a kid growing up, or even as a young adult. But all of a sudden, I got this dandruff. And what was interesting was my approach was different. So I got this dandruff, but I said to myself, okay, I've been pretty convinced that what I'm doing right now is healing, is restorative. So here's my experiment to myself. I'm going to change absolutely nothing about anything, right? In response to the symptom of dandruff, I'm going to change nothing. I'll make sure I'm still getting, a lot of hydrating food in my diet. I'm not gonna just all of a sudden eat dates only for the, go crazy with the more concentrated fruitarian options. But I'll still be relatively clean and healthy, high water content, rich fruits, and if I want some vegetables here or there, sure. And I'm going to change nothing and then just see what happens. I'm going to accept, okay, my body's doing something. I'm just going to ride it out, see what happens. And sure enough, by doing nothing and changing nothing, the dandruff just went away.
Oh, wow.
It was annoying. It was annoying as heck.
Yeah.
I'm
going through some of that right now.
Oh, are you? Yeah. So sometimes it's just the ebb and flow of your body, the natural processes. Who knows what it is? You might have picked up something.
It could also be the fact that literally today it's 12 degrees outside and the skin just is not built for that. So you just never know.
Guys, it is so cold. We were just chatting about this before we started rolling, but it is absolutely freezing outside
it
today.
Is.
Holy moly. So it could be weather. It could be, you never know. Now, okay. So the other part of that question was other detox symptoms. Okay, how did I deal with those? I would say the most noticeable detox symptom that I noticed or recognized, I didn't get that many. Admittedly, I didn't get that many. And I always mention it is because I did have a good lead up to going fruitarian. Lots of fasting, a very, very clean diet. Between fasting and very, very clean plant-based diet, pretty much almost raw, not 100%, but almost raw. And so I was getting a lot of practice and training in. So my detox symptoms weren't that bad. I did experience for a good period of time dips in energy.
Yeah.
So there were days where I felt like I was planning on going to the gym or exercising, and then no, it's not happening today. I just don't feel like it. And so I had to deal with those dips for quite a while, right? For quite a while, several months. And that was the most noticeable, right? The most noticeable. However, it wasn't too difficult a ride for me. Aside from that, like the symptoms that I would, or the dandruff things, so things like that might pop up for a week or 2 weeks, right? And then go away. So maybe I have like a really sore muscle, like a really stiff muscle that that was inexplicable. I'm like, I don't remember exercising this muscle, but I just accepted it and then just kept going, and then it works itself out, right? So if I'm forgetting to relay a bit of my experience, it's because of that. It's because I didn't. If it happened, I just accepted it and that's it. Just keep going, right? And kept going and going, and then eventually started to feel really good. Skin started to clear up. I had bad skin on my hands, right? Bad skin on my hands, and eventually it took a little while, but that started to clear up. And that made me really, really thankful. There were a couple times during the transition where it would be worse, right? So you could consider that part of the detox symptoms. Sometimes dry skin would be worse on my hands. Accept it. Just don't do anything different. Don't go getting steroid creams or anything like that. No. Just it's the worst thing you could do.
If it ends in retinol or all or anything like that, I wouldn't. Do it.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. There it was energy ebbs and flows and dips. That was the most noticeable detox symptom. that I can relate to you. But everything else was very, very manageable and did not detract from my life in any significant.
And you didn't come into this because of weight loss, did you?
No,
Yeah, I didn't
no,
think
no.
so.
Yeah, no. My problem was always the opposite direction. It was always really tough for me to put on weight.
Yeah, I don't even understand that life.
Which, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that
Like,
life is not something I've ever. I see people that are really skinny. I'm like, I don't even understand. But yeah,
yeah,
it's just yeah. So I mean,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I think anybody who's coming into this because they have weight to lose are going to run into more detox than people who don't. But I could be wrong on
Mm,
that. But it just seems to
mm,
me that because your body is storing so much inflammation, then when
yeah,
it's on its way out, you're going to go through more. But maybe not. I don't
a
know. I
rougher
could be wrong.
time. I think I would agree with that. I think I would agree with that. No, but that's purely just a guess. It's an opinion. I don't know. I
Yeah, I
can't
have no idea.
corroborate that. But I would assume, I mean, I would just assume that if someone is carrying around way, 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 way more, yeah, coming out, you'd probably have a more challenging time with that than someone who doesn't have all of it. Because, we store toxins in our fat tissue. That's just it. That's the end of the
Yeah.
story, right? So we do store it in our fat tissue. So if there's way less of it, yeah, you might imagine that person might not have a challenging time. And I guess for me, it must have been, just absorption issues, just not very good efficiency in my body. I could, I would, oh man, I remember being very frustrated with that when I was in late elementary school, early high school, just working out, trying to put on weight. But it was just, I was just this skinny kid, this
Yeah.
slim kid.
Should
So
have
it was
done
challenging.
steroids, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, right?
It's simple.
Yeah, well, and by the time I got later university and later high school,
Yeah.
early university, yeah, okay, now all of a sudden things were starting to change. I was eating anything goes, right? So I
Yeah.
was eating all sorts of stimulants, the chickens, the beefs, the broths, the whatever it is, anything goes. So yeah, sure, I started to the balloon out a little bit, and then only later, once I started realizing, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't be stuffing my face with every conceivable processed food, or whatever. Then all of a sudden, the muscle mass that I did gain starts to compress a bit. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man, but that's how it goes, right? Health was the priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody also asked me to ask you, what do you think of the calories in, calories out thing? Do you think it's terribly relevant?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Because on the one hand, I mean, of course it makes sense. If I just stop eating, right? Start exercising, stop eating. When I say stop eating, like completely, no food, it's a fast. And I go to the gym for the next 4 days, eat nothing. Of course, I'm going to lose weight. Of course, you're the fat's just going to go away. You're going to be lean as heck. So of course, yes. If you calories in, calories out, there's something worth considering there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, However, when we get to the food picture, it's different because now we're talking about fiber content and water content, right, and calorie density, and that all makes a difference. So obviously, you load yourself up with high fiber food, high water content rich food. Now you can eat more and be getting less caloric calorie. How do I want to say that? Less calorie density into
Yeah.
your body, right? Um, so it's weird in that you can eat more and then lose weight, get healthier. But okay, so calories in, calories out. Um, it, there's also the metabolism aspect that you have to consider here. So it depends on what the metabolic rate would be. Um, Someone with a very, very high metabolism, for example, might be able to eat more and not experience as much weight gain, right? So there's that element as well. But if okay, sorry. So let me just simplify though. Calories in, calorie out. I would say yes.
I think it
Yes,
depends on what
there
you
is.
eat.
It depends. It just yes, it depends on what you eat. It really does depend on what you eat. In the grand scheme of things, of course, that's a factor. If you eat less and you exercise more or move more, you are going to lose weight. Or if you don't do any exercising, you just don't eat as much, you will lose weight. So of course that has to be a truth there, right? There's a reality that you can't escape. It's just that, yeah, once you start getting into all the other dietary components of the picture, then you introduce a whole new set of variables that you need to consider in the calorie in, calorie out question, right? So I would want to ask that person, okay, what's the question behind that? What are you looking to, what is the motivation for that question? Like, do you have a particular diet and you want to eat more but not see any weight loss or weight gain? Like, what do you want to do? And then you could squeeze out a better answer,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I would want a little bit more information.
I think they're asking because I don't think that calories matter if you're eating the right food, because your body will regulate what you can eat.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And if like you were saying, if you stop eating, of course you're going to lose weight in the beginning, but then all of a sudden your body will trigger a slow metabolism because it thinks it's starving, and it will start gaining weight at the same period. So
Yeah.
people like to fight with me about this, but honestly, the more I've eaten in the past on like when I was raw, or even raw plus a little starch, the more I've lost.
Hmm.
But when I've tried to limit, like back in the day, I would gain weight.
Yeah. And I should have mentioned as well, if you're eating carbohydrate rich food, your body does not want to store carbohydrate as fat. Like it's not easy for your body to do that,
No.
assuming what you're eating is in the absence of concentrated fats. So if you load up on a broccoli and sweet potato, right, the amount of that gets turned into fat is so minimal that it's not worth considering.
Yeah.
For anyone eating a reasonable amount of that type of food in a day, it's honestly not even considerable. You would have to be eating processed foods or fats in association with your carbs.
Exactly.
So so you could okay, so framing it in that perspective now, does it matter calories in, calories out? You can be in excess of your general eating habit, general eating pattern, in excess of, like, let's just say 500 calories extra of carbohydrate rich food, right? Whole food carbohydrates. If 3 of those days throughout the week you ate an excess of 500 calories of carbohydrate rich food, no fats, would it make a difference in the fat that you start to carry around? Probably not. You would just burn it off. So yeah, we always have to remember that, like, your food combining makes a difference, and what, of course, you're eating and in what combination.
That's something else somebody asked me to ask you about. I just did a video about this on my Patreon. I probably should move it over to my YouTube, but food combination is enormous, I
Mm-hmm.
think. What do you think about food combination?
Yeah, very important, very very important. More important than people would give credit for. And it starts to become food combining and proper food combination. It starts to become more and more and more and more important. Like, its importance rises as the complexity of the diet rises. Okay, so they're directly proportional to one another. And so you need to know more about food combining the more you start to play around with your
Yeah.
diet. A chipmunk has no need for food combining because its diet is just rock bottom, basic physiological optimal eating.
Yeah.
Right? There's no extra. So food combining is no need for any food combining knowledge. But as soon as like I said, as soon as we start to gain complexity, then we need to know a couple. So that being said, it also there is some leeway there if you're already healthy, if you're not sick, if you don't have digestive troubles, if you have a strong constitution, you already worked on your on your digestion, then you can afford to deal with some unideal food combining. Sure.
Yeah.
And you might not notice. You might not notice it at all. I can give you an example. So let's say myself, if I were to eat something that is, still within my parameters for what I consider good food, but I eat it in a less than ideal combination. Let's say I have some melon,
watermelon, and avocado.
Okay. Oh, I've never made that error. I don't have an experience that I could tell you what that's like. I
don't either, but I've seen people do stuff like that. I'm like, bro, I mean, you would hear me clear across to California. I mean,
Oh man, yeah, that would not work.
No.
Okay, well, let's just say I ate stuff with my melon. Let's say a fruit salad. Let's just say I had a fruit salad and it was bananas and watermelon. Oof. Right? In the same bowl. Okay.
Yeah.
So I do that. Am I going to be sick after? No, I'm not going to be sick, but I might notice a lot more gas for some reason, right? For some reason that day. And if I'm noticing a lot more gas, then it tells me, oh, okay, all right, well, I must have done something that was a little less ideal. Okay. So, but can my body handle that? As long as I don't do it all the time, every day, of course. And you're going to be perfectly fine. So you can get away with some unoptimal food combinations depending on what your diet is like. But yeah, if my diet were more complex, then I would want to avoid doing that kind of stuff every single day. If people pay attention to food combining but change almost nothing else about how they eat, they would see vast improvements in their health.
Massive.
And it is that important. It is that important. And you can see the differences in days. Like we're talking days,
Yeah.
2-3 days of good food combining with an average anything goes diet, and you'll immediately notice a difference.
Yeah.
Oh, my acid reflux is, it's not bothering me today. Whatever the complications are. So I'd say it's very important, but I also there's also the thing attached to that where it becomes less important to know about those things if the diet is brutally simple, and if you're in fairly good health, yeah, you can deal with a little bit of unoptimal food combining so long as you don't make a daily habit of it. Then your body is very good at recovering.
Yeah.
That. Yeah. But
right,
very important.
I think I'm going to ask one last set of questions, and then I'll leave it to the comments. If there's a ton of comments, then maybe we'll have you back on if you got time for that.
Sure.
Somebody asked me, it's kind of like a combined question. So somebody was watching an interview of yours or a video of yours and said that you spend a fair bit of money on food in a week. And they also asked if he's spending that much money on food in a week, how can he be eating so little in a day?
Okay. So if I'm spending, well, how much I spend varies just as much as it does for anybody. If I'm eating like jackfruit and durian, for example, super, super expensive. If I'm eating that, then I'm paying a lot for not as much food. If I'm spending all that money, let's just say on bananas, then it's the same amount of money, but tons of food that lasts me a week, right?
Yeah.
So there's a difference. See, because with fruit, if I'm eating only fruit, right, that means I can be spending next to nothing, and it also means I can be spending more than the average person. Right?
Yeah, I mean durian especially. What is it? If you have one fresh, I what are they like $150 a piece or something?
Oh no, not that expensive. if you, oh, well, if you're buying them fresh,
Yeah, buy them
if you buy
fresh.
fresh non-frozen durian, then you're probably looking in the ballpark of like $70 for one,
Oh, is it that? Okay.
for a fairly sized one. If it's frozen durian, like whole frozen durian, here I would only buy, first of all, I would only buy them if they're on sale. Um, so if I'm buying one on sale that's a whole frozen durian, then you're looking at like what, $30 for one. It's maybe
That's not
even
too
less
bad.
depending,
That's
which
not
is
too
not,
bad.
yeah,
I mean, for me anyway, because I wouldn't eat a ton of it. But like if somebody
yeah,
like
yeah.
you were eating like the entire thing,
Sure, because like it's a meal, like
yeah.
that's the meal. So if I, so it can be expensive. It can be expensive, at least a lot more expensive than my clearance bin cantaloupes for $1.50. You know, so it it depends. I don't spend I'm not sure what I alluded to or what I said in that
I'm
video.
not
Or
either. You know, this is the
yeah,
problem when people ask you questions like this because they don't tell me what video, they don't tell me anything like
yeah,
that. But it just sounds like they were saying that you don't really eat that much in a day.
right,
How do you
right,
spend that much money?
right. Okay, I I don't eat. How do I say this? How much I eat, it varies as well. So I wouldn't say that I do spend, like I can't put a definitive at the end of that idea that I do spend a lot of money on food, because there are times when I really don't. Last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? There was probably 4 days or so where I ate probably under 1,000 calories, like 900 calories or so. And then there
Wow.
were other days where it was 1,500 maybe. Again, this is rough estimate. These would have been days where I was working or doing whatever, occupied throughout the whole day, and the only time I had to eat was getting home in the evening, 5 o'clock or so, and that's it. That's my window for eating. So have whatever it is, a melon and some papaya or some grapes, and it's evening time, so that's all you want, right?
Yeah.
Not much calories, like 600 calories, 700 calories. So there was a whole slew of days where I ate like that. Other days it doesn't look like that. Other days it's more. So you can't. Whoever's asking the question, you can't say that I do spend a lot of money or I don't. It depends. Or I do eat a lot or I don't. It just depends. I'm a human being like anybody else. This just varies. Generally speaking, though, yes, I'm usually eating less relatively than anybody else. That's for sure.
Mm.
That's 100%. I'm not the 2,500 calorie guy every day. No, okay,
Yeah.
that I can say pretty confidently. But on the lower end of calorie intake, yeah, there's variability. So I don't know, and I don't track these things. So whatever I might have said in that video, I can tell you it might have been a guess, and I might have been off. But it's a guess because I don't track.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think that's
hard
perfect.
to say.
I
Yeah,
think that's,
man.
I mean, is there anything that you wanted to cover?
You know what? No, actually, some of the things that I had in mind, we pretty much covered them.
Read your mind.
Yeah. No, that was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great, man.
Where did the Free Melon Society even come from? Like, what's the name for?
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, where did I get where did that come from? Free Melon Society. And I guess because I've always been very interested in occult research,
Mhm.
esoteric philosophy, natural science, and secret societies. Secret societies plays a part in this. And I in researching what Freemasonry was, and it's
Mm.
now, I should say right off the bat, I'm not a Freemason, not affiliated with any lodge or any secret society of any sort. It's just that I'm into the researching natural science, natural law, and the philosophies of antiquity, right? Very,
Yeah.
very interesting. And so what happened over time was there always has been for thousands upon thousands of years a school, a mystery school, a body of knowledge that was taught to particular classes of enlightened individuals.
Yeah.
Right. And the uncorrupted, unadulterated, pure version of that mystery school teaching was not evil, was not, it was just information about the world.
Yeah.
And now over time, information is dangerous depending on who you are. So if you are a king, a despot, a ruler, and you want to control a population underneath you, then it's good to have knowledge that the rest of the people don't, right? So anyway, my point is, over time, the Freemasonry became corrupted. It became influenced by subversive other societies. Okay, and then from that point onward, we have the more insidious brand of Freemasonry, which, because it's been tied up in what you could call Illuminism, or
I was going to say the illuminated ones.
Yeah, you could. So it got infiltrated by all of these subversive forces. But in its core state, it's no different. It's no different. It's a tool. It's a knowledge tool, no different than a pair of scissors can be used to cut beautiful shapes or kill people. Right?
Yeah.
It's just a tool. And so, in looking for a name to give my channel, I stylized it as, okay, this place that you could go to where you could get very interesting, compelling information about how the world works, about how your body works, the true natural science that governs vitality, that is not conventional. And so a secret society was like the thing that was in my head. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a secret society of some sort. Yeah. So I kind of just made it fun and adopted that symbol, but obviously made it different and distinct with a whole bunch of fruit, right? And so that was the idea. It's basically just a school, essentially. I stylized it as a school, but an unconventional school, if I had to encapsulate it in a nutshell.
I mean, eating fruit all day is pretty unconventional, right?
It's extremely unconventional. Yeah, exactly. Extremely unconventional.
I mean, even though the Genesis 1:29, first 5 pages of the Bible, everybody claims to have read, states what we're supposed to eat. But yeah. What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And and it's not just the the Hebrew text. It's not just Christianity where we can find these allusions to eating what grows off the trees, right? Eating the fruits of the trees and seeds of the trees. I mean, there's lots of different texts scattered throughout antiquity where you can find these allusions to dietary prescriptions. And it starts to become super, super interesting because you find this general common denominator of all sorts of different, how do I say this, themes and all sorts of different kernels of knowledge, right? Kernels of wisdom and kernels of knowledge that are similar across all geographic planes of existence, right? It doesn't matter how geographically separated two cultures are or two land masses are, they would somehow have come to the same conclusions, and that gets encoded in their sacred texts. Right? Different traditions all over the world. And it's really interesting to see some of that commonality between people that had no relation to one another. It's like,
no connection whatsoever.
Yeah, none whatsoever. So there's a whole historical body of information there that's very interesting to get into. And yeah, so I was drawing on a little bit of that when I was trying to come up for a name or a theme for the type of thing I was going to get into on my channel.
Awesome. I wasn't expecting that much to have gone into it, but that's cool. Yeah.
Well, it's important because you have to, because in stylizing my channel the way I have, you have to you got to anticipate that there are people going to be coming after you saying, whoa, you're a Freemason, evil. Like, I get it. I know. Right. But so anyway, it behooves me to give some context there, because otherwise I'll be misinterpreted. Right. Or the channel will be misinterpreted. People will see that logo and come to the complete wrong. Right.
Well, that and you work in the film industry.
Yes, and I work in the yes, exactly. I work in the film industry, right?
Yeah, there's a few Masons there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, absolutely. And I think I get a bit lucky because I'm a stuntman, primarily a stuntman. You do every once in a while get to work as an actor too, but no, primarily I'm a stuntman, and it's helpful because as a stunt guy, you're not publicly influential, right? In the Hollywood, in the Hollywood scene. You're not a public figure. And so once you're a public figure that has pull and influence and can infuse a bit of influence into culture, all of a sudden now all of these weirder types of groups start to come after you and use your influence. But because the stunt industry, the stunt people don't really have that. You never really see that side of it. Right?
Yeah.
So it's good. So I can still lead a normal life and be anonymous in public, right? And still go grocery shopping with like all that stuff, and yet work in in Hollywood films and TV shows and whatnot. And so it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, everything's hidden in plain sight anyway. It's just like if you look at, I notice it has nothing to do with diet, so probably move this to the end of the film or the video. But I mean, if you look at like Amazon, if you change the Z to an S, what does it say?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly, right. Yeah.
So everything's hidden in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you got to create a secret handshake. For your society.
Yes, of course. How did I not think about that? Yeah. I need some sort of secret but not secret handshake. No, that was great, man. No, we covered some good territory that time. And if people have more questions, then just they'll let you know. And then if we want, we can do another one and follow up with some of those questions.
Perfect.
Oh yeah. Oh, potatoes, man. It's so good. That was my not again, I didn't mention it, but that was my food. Like that was my staple, potatoes, for quite a while.
Really? Yeah. What way did you cook them? Man, this is I don't know if I'm gonna edit or put any of this in, but how did you cook them?
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what I did. So I would use coconut oil. A mistake that I probably wouldn't do now, but I would cook with coconut oil. So I'd put a little bit of coconut oil in the pan, and then slice the sweet potatoes in coins. Okay.
Okay.
Coins. Yeah. Just throw them in the pot, and that was pretty much it. A little bit of parsley, and maybe some other herbs, some other light herbs. A little bit of pink salt, Himalayan pink salt, and that's it. That's how we did them. So a bit of coconut oil, cut in cubes. Coins. Some seasonings, maybe paprika, parsley, maybe oregano, a little bit of pink salt, and that's it. And they're so tasty, so tasty. Later on, I'll just finish. Later on, I ditched the oil, and I would just dry roast. So just whole potato, slice, put slices in on one end, slices on the other end, so that the air has a chance to escape, and then just put it into the oven whole, dry roast for whatever it is, 40 minutes, and then you have this wonderfully gooey, soft sweet potato.
What kind of sweet potatoes? The Japanese, the orange ones? I mean, what kind?
Yeah, all sorts of varieties.
Oh, really?
Whatever I could get. Yeah. I like them all. Yeah, whichever varieties. Like the purples, the Japanese ones, very tasty.
Yeah.
The conventional ones, the white sweet potatoes. Yeah, I mean, it's so tasty. You can't go wrong with sweet potatoes.
And what do you think of regular potatoes? Not sweet potatoes.
I don't I don't mind them. I never really use them for my own food prep. Okay,
Okay.
so okay, let's just say you go to a restaurant, you have like fries or whatnot. Um, yeah, sure. They use regular potatoes, and it's all dressed up in fat and oil and whatever. So sure, it's great. Uh, I never in my home cooking though used regular potatoes just because at that time sweet potatoes were just tastier for me. It was just pure taste.
That
And I was
is that is how I am in reverse of you.
okay.
I
Okay.
don't like sweet potatoes at all. I don't understand. It's
Oh,
kind of like
really?
coffee. I don't
Mm.
understand how people like coffee.
Yeah,
I'm the complete opposite. I have some
really. Oh, yeah.
upstairs, really, and I'm like, man, why did I buy these things? I keep doing it to myself. It's like,
Yeah.
stabbing yourself. I'm like, well, why did I do that? And you do it again the next day. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's just, yeah,
Well,
I
you know
can't
what?
jive with them.
Because later on, as I started to get closer and closer to what I'm doing now, the more fruitarian thing, I started to eat. I started to really simplify my meals, and because I wanted to get away from like seasonings and whatnot, then the potatoes were just for me less flavorful without other seasonings and oils.
Yeah,
So that's why I started to stick to more sweet potatoes. Um, but yeah, no, it wasn't like for any like nutritional reason at that time. It was just because they tasted better if I didn't dress them up with other flavors, right? So that was it for me. But I mean, in terms of how I would recommend eating for someone who just wants to go plant based, high carb, whatever it is, then I wouldn't have any qualms about suggesting potatoes. Uh, you know, if that's what they like, then it'd be more important. Just no, do what you like and stay plant based. Try to avoid the more processed variety
yeah.
of foods, the landmines, and be comfortable with that. And then if you want to improve later on, you can. But that's a great place to be.
Perfect. I think I'm going to end there. Thanks for being
Okay.
on here. If anybody's got any questions down below, ask them. If there's enough, I guess we'll have Eli back on here. I might also have Eli on here with like a starch person and see what kind of questions we can get there. But that's it. Again, I'll put his information down in the description section, so go check him out, like, follow, whatever, all that good stuff. Like the video, subscribe, and thanks for being on here.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, brother. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next one.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, Ryan.